I guess the reason, Bev, why it happened is first of all, because the feelings were so intense for years after 9/11, and then it flipped around and everybody kind of moved on to other crises and other events, such as the ones that we'll talk about today. So you have these three men who are amongst the plotters of 9/11. One of them, in fact, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, was probably the lead plotter of 9/11. And they were captured in 2003. So, about 18 months after the attacks had taken place. And what happened for several years is that the US didn't want to put them in through any type of legal process. They were stuck in Guantanamo Bay. They were probably amongst those who were tortured as part of extreme interrogations. And then by the time the US came around and thought, well, we'll prosecute these guys, which was around 2008, 2009, because of the torture, they had poisoned the well of the evidence. If you brought them to a military trial, the confessions might be thrown out, and also any associated evidence that you got from the confessions could be thrown out. And so then you enter this limbo. The government isn't sure they're going to win the case. Nobody in the United States wants to have these guys in their prisons, so they can't appear in court in the United States. And what eventually has happened is that there have been years of wrangling in terms of how can we get accountability for what they did, while at the same time having to deal with the consequences of what the Bush administration had done, which was beyond the legal system. So we have the agreement, few details yet, but reportedly the men will plead guilty next week. They'll get life in prison. They'll avoid the death penalty. And one element that I think a lot of the media have missed on this is we're being told that as part of the deal, they will answer questions from the relatives of the victims of 9/11 to, at least from their point of view, explain why they carried out this mass murder that changed the 21st century.
Absolutely. So, Scott, that had repercussions, to your point, the US's invasion of Iraq, of Afghanistan. And now we are in a position where we are embroiled in a war that also seems to have no end and sort of no way to sort of navigate. The funeral is being held at the moment for one of Hamas's top leaders, Ismail Haniyeh. What did you make of this strike and what it now means for the precariousness of the situation?
History doesn't end. It turns like a kaleidoscope. And so what you've got is an Israel-Palestine dispute, which has been going on for many decades, especially since the formation of the State of Israel in 1948. And Israel's mass killings in Gaza, which follow Hamas's mass killings last October in Israel, is the latest cycle of this. Now, on top of that, we've got the tensions between Iran and Israel that date back to the Islamic Revolution in 1979. What does this all have to do with Israel killing the Hamas leader, Ismail Haniyeh, in Iran, in a strike, a blatant strike on a residence in Tehran? I think the first thing it means is that the conflict goes on. There is almost no prospect of a ceasefire when you're talking about one of the people who was negotiating the ceasefire being taken out in a targeted assassination. And I think we need to be honest with your viewers that with the responsibility for the mass killings on both sides, the fundamental here is that the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu does not want a ceasefire. He does not want a ceasefire until all the top leaders of Hamas have been killed. The breaking news we have today, on top of this killing in Tehran, is that Israel also claims it killed the military leader of Hamas, Mohammed Daif, in a strike on July 13th. They say they finally have the evidence he was killed in an attack that killed more than 90 people. But there is one Hamas leader still at large, Yahya Sinwar. And until he's killed, Netanyahu can't declare that he has destroyed Hamas. And so we have the ongoing killings in Gaza. But now we face a further question. Because they carry out this attack on Iranian territory, will the Iranian regime take the hit because it makes them look bad? Or will they try to lash back with some type of attack on Israel? Personally, I don't think they will. I think Iran has so many economic problems, so many social issues, and I think the fact is, in a direct exchange of missiles, Iran would be outgunned. But Israel is taking that chance. So we wait to see what the supreme leader and his inner circle will do. In terms of their rhetoric, they are vowing some type of retaliation.
Yeah. How hard is it for the US to try and contain this? Politically, this is an issue, and it is not only politically, it is the human cost of this conflict right now. They want to bring it to an end. To your point, it doesn't feel like either party really wants this to end at the moment.
This isn't up to the US. If the Biden administration, and now, look, let's be honest here, because we've gone through 10 months of this. If the Biden administration really wanted to push Israel to accept the ceasefire and to end this, months ago, it would have halted military aid to Israel. It would have joined other countries in the United Nations Security Council and not just abstained, they would have voted for a ceasefire, a meaningful ceasefire. They have given Israel, or at least Benjamin Netanyahu, the space to continue this. Anthony Blinken will go around and say it's important to get a Gaza ceasefire, it's important to do this, it's important to do that. You have to exercise leverage against the Israelis. And in terms of Israel and Iran, the decision on where we go next between Israel and Iran, it's up to the leaders of those countries. The United States is not going to be the one that dictates whether or not they step back from confrontation or they step further towards it.
Yeah. Scott, this is the last time we get a chance to talk in my last program, and it's the things that we have navigated with you and the opportunity to speak to someone like yourself that, doesn't follow the normal trends that so many people do, that always gives us something to think about, has made such a difference to my life, and I hope to the life of the viewers. Thank you for the way you've navigated these issues for us. You make so much sense of it, and you always make us question, which is so important when we think of so many of the issues that we've canvassed over the years.
Yeah, right back at you. In a world that's filled with just the fast pace of what can be disinformation, conspiracy theory, and let's be honest, some bad actors who are willing to exploit that, you and the world are a beacon of light. You bring that information to people every night to let them make up their own minds from a basis of feeling like, okay, maybe I understand. Maybe I'm not just overwhelmed. Now you're moving on to better things, and you better not be shy. Don't disappear entirely. But the world, literally, the program will go on. And I just want to say to you and to everyone else, thank you for reinforcing what keeps me going each and every day, which is that you all be smart, you be sensible, and you be decent to each other.